Hi everyone, it's me again, Lena, and I'm so happy to be here for the launch of Solidworks 2026, presented by Solidxperts. We meet here every year for this event, and honestly, it's always something that I look forward to. It's our chance to find out what will save us some time and maybe a bit of patience too. So stay with us until the end because we also have great prizes to give away. So this year, SolidWorks turns 30 years of innovation, of evolution, and collaboration with creators like you. It's crazy to see how far it's come from the first 3D model to today's connected solutions. With SolidWorks 2026, we're not talking about updates. It's faster, smarter, and built for your everyday reality. Because we all know how fast our days go, projects, deadlines, and that coffee that never stays hot. And that's where SolidWorks basically really shines. This year, it's all about performance, precision, and even smoother collaboration. At Solidxperts, we're proud to support you through it because we see it every day. One small improvement can change everything. So today we'll explore what's new in SolidWorks 2026 with Eddie Ricciardi, Aidan Duncan, Michael Habrich, and René Forcier. They'll show us how these updates speed up your workflow and make your designing smoother and faster than ever. So get comfy, whether you're at the office, the shop, or at home. This version is really going to impress you. Ready? Let's go. I'll be with Eddie to talk you through the highlights of SolidWorks 2026, and trust me, it's really impressive.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's always great to be back with Lena and the gang here to go over the great new features being introduced in SolidWorks 2026. So between 2025 FD01 and 2026 GA, there has been over 420 enhancements released, and 2026 will continue to deliver value in each functional delivery throughout the year with performance improvements, software stability, and user-centric enhancements. So at 22,000 pounds and capable of 28,000 pounds of thrust force, the Vermeer horizontal directional driller has become an industry standard over the last 50 years. These drillers are designed for laying in fiber optic lines, power cables, and other utilities without the need to trench, making it possible to incorporate these utilities underneath existing infrastructure such as roads, bridges, and sidewalks. So this data set will be our roadmap today as we walk through what's new in SOLIDWORKS 2026.
All right, here we are, the new features of SolidWorks 2026. This is the part we all wait for and where we find out what's going to save us a lot of time and maybe a few headaches too. So this year, get ready. It's faster, more precise, and practically things for you.
Absolutely, Lena. So the main goal is to make design faster and more intuitive. With new on-demand component loading feature, you can now open up only the parts you need. So that means a huge performance boost, especially when working with large assemblies. So working with large assemblies can be challenging. The only way to have total context of your design is to open up the parts that you don't need in order to get to the parts that you do need. Selective loading allows us to start in a lightweight browser application in order to filter out the parts that we want to work on. Here we can graphically select the parts we want, completely independent of the underlying CAD structure, and save this filtered view for later on. Instead of waiting for every mate reference and component to load, we can open up the filtered view with only the parts we need in order to begin designing faster. Filtering goes much further than just parts or subassemblies. We're able to filter by custom properties, maturity states, or even volumes. So these filters can be assigned to tasks as well for efficient design communication. This eliminates the time spent opening, digging through large assemblies, allowing designers to work with more specific model information. As mentioned, these save filters can act as curated views representing different variations of your assembly and can be referenced directly in your design documentation, meaning that you can reference these views in drawings, keeping your documentation accurate and up to date, while showcasing exactly the components you intend.
It's really interesting. So that means less loading and more efficiency? Sounds like everyone's gonna love that. Now, we've seen the main highlights. I'll let Eddie keep going. There's a lot of things to see.
Much appreciated, Lena. there's definitely more to explore, as powerful part creation and modification is what we've come to expect from SolidWorks. So SolidWorks 2026 continues to enhance part creation with some new improvements to sheet metal, equations, structure systems, being able to leverage Cutlass properties for PLM and ERP systems, and as well as some enhancements to reference geometry. So new for sheet metal in SolidWorks 2026 is the ability to offset base flange extrusions right from the sketch plane. Similar to a standard extrude, base flanges can now be offset by a specific amount, by a vertex, or a surface face or plane, giving you greater control over your sheet metal design. Breaking exterior corners on sheet metal parts has always been a quick operation with the use of the break corners tool. New for 2026, break corners can be applied to both interior and exterior corners. This saves time compared to manual edge selection. Equations are a great way to apply conditions or create links in sketches and features that would otherwise not be possible. However, when a feature or sketch containing those equations are deleted, we end up with errors in the design tree due to those dangling equations. With SolidWorks 2026, we can simply select the Delete Equations checkbox to automatically delete those equations, keeping your design tree clean and allowing you to continue with your design. Structure systems are a great way to create welded structures without having to sketch every single line. Corner treatments are also easier to apply. New for SolidWorks 2026, corner treatment process has been updated with more consistent colors to indicate the corner type, and a new graphical selection pane where selecting the complex corner to modify becomes even easier. So better previews, easier selection allows you to work fast and more effectively with structure systems. Cutlass are a great way for gathering like bodies in order to quickly make a bill of material for your projects. However, sometimes it's hard to access that information generated for use in your downstream workflows. So SolidWorks 2026 now allows you to reference Cutlass properties such as description, total length, and more in the part configuration properties, making information easily accessible without having to rely on any sort of workaround. And finally, reference points. So reference points are a great way to provide precise location in 3D space without having to use any sketch or model geometry. This provides consistent references to build upon. So in SolidWorks 2026, we can now create a reference point using XYZ coordinate values, as shown here, to map out a path for a sweep, which would have otherwise been a challenging 3D sketch. Bounding boxes are usually used to give us the lowest value box around a cylinder or an object. In some cases, we don't always want the smallest volume. We want to be able to orient the box along a specific plane. SolidWorks 2026 allows users to specify the direction of the bounding box based on a user-defined coordinate system. So in our example, here we can see how the bounding box length of 30 inches does not change, even though the width of the part will change from 33 to 27 inches when changing configuration. So a lot of great new features aimed at speed and usability for part designers. So moving right along, SolidWorks 2026 is bringing in, again, new features for assemblies that are also aimed at increasing efficiency of common workflows. When working with assemblies, every save requires time to transfer the data to a local or network drive or the cloud. Reducing unnecessary saves helps you work faster. The new assembly save indicator now lets you know that only cosmetic changes have been made that do not require a save of the top level assembly. These types of cosmetic changes include the addition of reference geometry or the modification of unabsorbed sketches, and decals are another good example of a strictly cosmetic change to a part. As long as there's no operations that created a physical change to the assembly save flag will be placed in square brackets, indicating to us that the top level assembly does not need to be saved. And SolidWorks 2026 will also notify you when saving the assembly. Display states are a great way to manage component visibility and appearances without the performance overhead of a configuration. In SOLIDWORks 2026, tables are rendered quickly, with all columns being fully adjustable. Reference display states in the subassembly are more accessible, with rows being enabled and disabled consistently through the drop-down menu. Configuration tables are also easier to work with. So when we double-click an item in the graphics area to add it to the table, you'll only see the suppress column to start with the remaining columns still being available through the drop-down menu. And fasteners. So fasteners download from supplier websites or custom fasteners can now be mated in very fast and efficiently, making this common workflow much more intuitive. The fasteners in this assembly came from the company-created library of parts and do not contain any mate references. SOLIDWORks AI fastener recognition is able to recognize these parts as fasteners, and you're able to bring them in with a simple drag and drop. So again, modifying SOLIDWORks assembly has always been effortless, and that trend continues with the new enhancements in 2026. And so in most cases, what stands between you and getting your product manufactured is a 2D drawing. So SOLIDWORks 2026 introduces several productivity boosting enhancements for drawings and MBD with new features utilizing AI, as well as improvements to the features that we know and love. So again, leveraging the power of AI, we're now able to auto-generate drawings of native SOLIDWORks parts as well as imported geometry. To get started, we simply select one or more parts or assemblies and select the auto-generate drawings feature from the context menu. The AI-based batch process handles the drawing creation, working in the background on the basic first steps of creating a drawing. Views are automatically scaled and placed, while the AI-based geometry recognition determines applicable section views and creates annotations. For assembly drawings, bombs, auto balloons, and revision tables are also added automatically. Woo! Big one. Introduced in 2012, magnetic lines were used for rearranging and organizing balloons. In SOLIDWORks 2026, magnetic lines can now be used for aligning all types of model annotations. Simply draw your magnet line as normal and watch your annotation snap into alignment. Drawings with lots of dimensions can be difficult to read. To help alleviate this, SOLIDWORks 2026 brings enhanced functionality to the dimension break tool. So the dimension break now dynamically updates as the dimension is moved, and it can be easily updated when adding new dimensions, improving clarity and avoiding misinterpretation of complex drawings. Geometric tolerance frames now provide the option of entering custom text in the range fields. Previously, only numeric values were supported. So this is going to be useful when you need to use symbols or letter values in your drawing. In our example, the tolerance value is entered as a variable, which might be denoted as a table or note or tolerance block. So again, incorporating the power of AI really helps with speeding up the documentation process, allowing SOLIDWORks to work in the background while you continue with other tasks. But not all manufacturing documentation needs to be in 2D. So some vendors may prefer or even require the use of 3D models with product manufacturing information incorporated into them. For this, SOLIDWORks MBD has new features to give greater control over your 3D detailing. So new for DimExpert and MBD, you can now hide and show multiple annotations. The selected annotation turns gray, indicating it will be hidden. To see which annotations have already been hidden, simply reselect or the command. Again, to view the gray annotations, and click any of them to return them back to their shown state. The DimExpert Manager tab now includes a filter bar. So just like in the Feature Manager tab, you can now type any text string or to instantly filter the display. So this is going to make it much easier to examine a complex model to reduce the potential for detailing errors. So again, SOLIDWORks 2026 really looks to build more speed with intuitive design environment, that will work and think with you to bring your ideas and designs to life. I'll give you guys a break from me for now and hand you back to Lena and the team.
Thank you a lot, Eddie. So he's always clear and so passionate. We just saw now how the updates of parts, assemblies, and drawings make designers smoother and more precise and way less frustrating. But it doesn't stop here. After 30 years of innovation, SolidWorks keeps evolving, and especially in routing and rendering. And to show us that, here's Aiden with the tools that are faster, smarter, and honestly just great to look at.
Thank you, Lena. I'm happy to dive into what's new with routing in 2026. And the first tool is piping and tubing. So in SOLIDWORKS 2026, routing users are now able to save custom pipe and tube coverings into a favorites library. This is for reuse not only within the current project, but also within any future projects on this same machine. This allows for better clearance verification in the modeling process, preventing any unexpected interferences within the installation process. You can see as we created our first tube set here, we can now apply it to the second route just as easily as selecting a favorite from the library. Another cool tool is the new sketch guided auto route. We can predefine a route via a 3D sketch, which will allow users to save a large amount of time, which would otherwise be spent manually editing the route, the results of an auto route feature. Within the auto route command, we can select to have a guided route using a 3D sketch as shown here. And by selecting the sketch and the splines we want it to follow, we will have our route following the exact route we want it to be, as shown. Another cool feature is with sheet formats now. So in 2026, when you're changing the sheet format of a sketch with a flattened route, the tables will automatically maintain their scale, limiting the amount of formatting changes that a user might have to make. You will still have to adjust the tables on this sheet, but it does limit the number of changes needed. So as a review of those routing changes, we have our improved coverings, being able to introduce a library of favorites throughout all projects, as well as using the sketch-guided auto route to predefine the path you would like an auto route to follow. And lastly, being able to switch your template in the flat view drawings while maintaining the scale of those tables. But that's what I have for routing in 2026, so let's jump right into rendering. There's a huge change for rendering in 2026. The biggest for me is the DSPBR appearances. So the entire Dassault appearance library in 2026 has been replaced with DSPBR appearances, which leads to the better presentation even within the basic mapping. Legacy appearances, so any appearances that you've applied before SOLIDWORKS 2026 will need to be updated to obtain the new DSPBR appearances. But this allows the images to be mapped with textures onto the geometry. These new appearances will better translate into SOLIDWORKS Visualize, more one-to-one than ever before. This is the format that Visualize already uses, and there's a new tab that allows you to load in maps, either custom or ones that you already have in your library. Additionally, rendering from SOLIDWORKS. So PhotoView 360 was sunset a few years back in favor of the SOLIDWORKS Visualize platform, but many clients were left desiring a visualize and rendering capability directly within SOLIDWORKS. Within 2026, users gained the capability of running SOLIDWORKS Visualize from directly within SOLIDWORKS, skipping the extra steps of exiting the main software for basic renderings. And last but not least, our fast mode has been updated once again to be even faster than before, and it is now supported by AMD GPUs, so more users can take effect. You can see while we're modifying the appearance of our rendering, there's no snow globing effect anymore, and the rendering is just faster and crisper than ever. So as a recap of those, the DSPBR appearances are fantastic because now you know exactly what it's going to look like when you go into Visualize with those appearances. The rendering from SOLIDWORKS skips that extra step for, I would say, probably 80% of renderings when you don't need to make major changes to your background. And also, The support of fast mode for AMD GPUs is it's fantastic because now more people get to experience the crispness of fast mode. And that is what I have for rendering.
Thank you, Aiden. So between the new routing and the amazing renders, that's really impressive. But great design also needs to be easy to use. And on that side, Michael has some really cool stuff to show us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lena, and thanks, Aiden, for that excellent presentation on rendering. So let's talk about user experience. Every year, when new versions of SOLIDWORKS are released, we hear familiar themes, right? Speed, efficiency, and ease of use. But ultimately, all things come down to one goal: making the user experience better. So let's take a look at how SOLIDWORKS 2026 improves the user experience. You can now import neutral CAD files like STEP or IGES in the background. So this lets you continue working on your models while they load, which is a huge boost to your efficiency. We now have improved selection filters, which makes editing complex parts easier. So we have filter features, which will highlight all your faces created by the same feature. And then we also have filter components, which will let you quickly clean up entire subassemblies for applying materials, defeaturing, or other cleanup operations. For our imported geometry, you can actually select a large number of bodies using a size slider or volume box, which is perfect for removing your small stray bodies. There's also a new dismissed message icon, which will improve visibility of alerts. And finally, graphic rebuilds now perform faster for our complex features. So let's see how some of these enhancements look like within our SOLIDWORKS environment, starting with that background importer. So this one gives you the ability to import models in the background, like I mentioned, and this is a huge game changer for productivity. So anyone who's ever imported a large step file knows how frustrating it can be to just sit there and wait for it to finish before doing anything else. So now instead of locking up your software, you can actually queue up multiple imported files right from the new task pane, and then continue working as those imports process quietly in the background. Whenever they're ready, you'll get a quick notification letting you know that they are ready, and then you can keep working and let SOLIDWORKS do the heavy lifting for you. Selection filters. So this next one focuses on our selection filters. There are actually two new ones that make working in assemblies and parts much faster. So let's look at the first one, filter components. When this one is active in an assembly, anything you click in the graphics area will automatically select the top level subassembly or component under your cursor. That means no more digging around through nested structures. You always get the right selection instantly. The second filter is filter features, and it's especially useful in parts. So imagine clicking a face, for example, one created by a fillet. All other faces created by that same feature will highlight in the graphics area and in the feature manager design tree. So another update that's incredibly helpful when working with complex parts or models that you didn't create yourself, for example. And this last set of enhancements introduces two new selection tools that makes it easier to manage our large complex models. So this first one is select bodies by size. Imagine working with a multi-body part that contains hundreds of tiny components, like bolts or screws. Now there's a slider that lets you progressively select bodies based on their size. So this is great for cleaning up heavy files, once again for creating lightweight configurations, for example. Our second tool is select bodies by volume. It brings a familiar capability from assemblies into the part environment, so you can sketch or drag a 3D bounding box directly in the graphics area, and then everything within that volume is selected automatically. So this makes it much easier to isolate regions of your model, remove unnecessary geometry, or, once again, simplify your imported parts. So together, these updates, our background importer, smarter filters, and our new selection tools, they all target one simple goal: a smoother, faster, and more efficient user experience. So it's about reducing friction, improving clarity, and keeping you focused on your design, not on the software, right? So let's take a look at improvements now to collaboration in 2026. Collaboration has always been at the heart of SOLIDWORKS, and in 2026, it does take another huge leap forward. So this year's focus is all about working smarter and not harder, connecting our people, data, and design intent more seamlessly than ever before. So I'm excited to show you this portion because I have a whole bunch of little goodies to show you. So let's look at how 3D Experience enhances collaboration in 2026. Of course, we have the AI companion Aura, which helps summarize information and perform natural language searches. You can now save configurations as new parts or assemblies directly on the 3D Experience platform, as well as connect with peers through in-app forums. Sharing is easier than ever. With the share command in SOLIDWORKS, you can share designs to 3D Drive seamlessly. Drawing stamping has also been improved so that it automatically updates your PLM properties. And then for manufacturing, weldment cut lists now sync to the platform for accurate EBOMs and MBOMs. Looking at design tables, they can now be securely stored on the platform, while our deformable components have also been improved for complex assembly management. Next up, we also have some updates to the bookmark editor app, so our bookmarks on the platform will update automatically, and they've also streamlined the navigation in bookmark editor as well. Finally, improved 3D Swim integrations actually connect you to your projects, your issues, and communities, while workflow automation in the platform is improved with Office document routing based on our maturities. So let's check out some of these enhancements and what they look like in real time. So let's start off with Aura, our SOLIDWORKS built-in AI assistant. Aura is not just a chatbot, it is a powerful context-aware tool that helps you summarize information, search naturally, and stay focused on what matters. With the new Aura integration into 3D Swim, teams can instantly summarize community posts, wikis, questions, and ideas. Imagine scrolling through a long technical discussion in your project community. Instead of reading through dozens of replies between your colleagues, you can now just ask Aura to summarize the key points for you. But it's not just about summaries. Aura can also pull context from entire communities or threads to help you make smarter conversations. So ultimately, Aura empowers every SOLIDWORKS user to get answers instantly, learn continuously, and collaborate intelligently, all without leaving the SOLIDWORKS ecosystem. The second big enhancement that I want to show you focuses on how and where collaboration happens. So in SOLIDWORKS 2026, collaboration now actually happens directly within the SOLIDWORKS interface. You can access the SOLIDWORKS user forum and connect with industry peers right from your workspace. You can share data seamlessly through 3D Drive and 3D Swim, all without ever switching applications or worrying about file formats, storage locations, or conversion errors. So what does this mean? Collaboration is now a part of the design experience itself. It's not just a separate task that happens afterwards. Think about how your design reviews typically work. Exporting files, uploading them to cloud storage, waiting for feedback. That's friction, right? And we're trying to avoid that with all of these enhancements. Now imagine being able to share your model directly from SOLIDWORKS instantly. Start a conversation in 3D Swim or send a 3D Drive link directly to your team, all from within SOLIDWORKS environment. I'm going to keep repeating it. You don't lose context, you don't lose time, you don't risk working with outdated versions of your files. This is especially powerful for multi-site teams, for anyone working in hybrid environments where collaboration tools need to be reliable and in real time. It's a huge step forward in unifying our design creation, communication, and collaboration into one connected experience. Speaking of working in SOLIDWORKS, here's a great enhancement that I've actually had customers ask me for directly, and that's the ability to save our configurations as a new part or assembly on the 3D Experience platform. Check out how easy it is to do. This last one is all about control and governance, so something every engineering organization values, at least I hope. With Office document routing, the platform now automates approval workflows as your documents evolve. So whenever a file changes maturity states, for example, from in work to released, we have predefined routing templates that are triggered automatically. That means our approvals are consistent, traceable, and fully auditable across our entire organization. No more manual tracking or missed sign-offs. Every change is logged, and every stakeholder is notified. And that's all I have for you today for my part. Thanks for listening.
That's really interesting. Thank you, Michael. Everything feels like more clear, smoother, and easy to work with. Now, let's bring in René, who'll show us how PDM keeps everything organized and connected.
Hello, I'm René, and thanks for joining us today. We're taking a first look at what's new in PDM 2026 and all the updates that make your daily work smarter, faster, and easier to manage. We're talking smarter searches, better visibility into your files, workflows, and more control over data and an overall smoother experience. Behind the scenes, we've also tightened up our security and enhanced encryption standards so your data stays safe without you having to think about it. Let's take a look at the latest features one by one and show how they can make a real difference in your PDM experience. First, the split search button now makes it easier to access recent searches or launch advanced searches in one click. No more rebuilding the same search repeatedly. It's just so that you can get your results faster with less effort. Search favorites can now have editable placeholder text before running searches. This means fewer unwanted attempts and more accurate results right from the start. Search cards also now have the ability to give exact matches for text or to have the generic wildcard search options, which can be controlled by your Vault admins. We've also added the transfer ownership feature. This allows a file to be reassigned from one user to another without requiring the original owner to check it into the Vault. This is useful when someone's unavailable because they're stuck in unending Teams meetings, or if someone went on vacation before they checked their files back into the Vault. Revision information is now easier to see, with revision variables being added by default to the Contains and Where Used tabs. You get immediate context on revisions without opening extra windows, making lifecycle impacts and management assessments faster. We've also updated our embedded previews, so now inside of the embedded eDrawings preview, directly inside of your client view, you can see step and Parasolid files without needing to launch a separate application or open them directly inside of Solidworks. We've also added more features for folder access rights for your admin. Users can now navigate directly to lower level folders without needing permissions of the parent folders above it. This removes access bottlenecks while keeping security on the folder level intact. Web 2 now has the bill of materials, so saved BOMs will now appear in a cleaner, collapsible panel. Reviewing product structure data is now faster and easier without having to navigate multiple windows or tabs. And the convert task now supports flexible file conversions, full version control, and advanced scripting options, giving administrators more control over neutral file formats that are being converted for downstream manufacturing processes or for your documentation needs. Also added for 2026 is the ability to archive workflows. For anyone who has worked as a PDM admin who's had to remove or update PDM workflows in the past, they know if you were moving from a previously existing workflow, this could be a huge pain. This new feature will make it easier and more seamless to remove unused or no longer relevant workflows from your Vault. So starting with our demonstrations here, we can see with our integrated search, we've now been able to have that split search feature. So we can get to our saved favorites or other save options that we want easier and faster. With our search favorites, we also have the ability to choose if we want to run those favorites with the saved data directly inside of them when opened, or if we want to open our saved favorite with a placeholder text in place, so that we can modify small pieces of text from favorites that we typically run, so that we can run our results without having to first do that initial search. With our search cards, we have the ability to fine-tune the data that we are looking for. We can fine-tune this more on the admin side by giving the search card the default options to either look for exact text if you want users to find exactly as they type, or the standard wildcards used where it'll find the text that's best fit. The transfer ownership tool is now brought directly into our interface. So transfer ownership allows for easier collaboration between designers and improvers. With files checked out by your user, you can now directly transfer files to other members of the design team or approval team without needing to first check them in. Other users can also request ownership or take ownership of files checked out by another user while you are unavailable, either due to a meeting or to other conflicts. The revision information has been added in more locations. So as mentioned before, the Contains and Where Used tabs will now have the revision column by default, giving more access to your users about information involving the revisions of parent files or child components to a top-level assembly that you are going to be modifying. The embedded preview has been updated, so as stated before, we are now able to see our step files as well as Parasolid file types directly in the eDrawings preview of our PDM client, preventing the need to open in another software or having to look at this inside of Solidworks before opening. With our improved folder access rights, we can see users can be set to only have access to the subfolders that they would need. This is great for contractors as well as interns, so that they'll be able to only see the files that they need buried beneath a project folder or beneath a product structure without needing to have write access or read access to any of the parent folders feeding to this. This will make it faster and easier for people to navigate to their work. With the Web 2 bill of materials, we now have a easy to view and easy to see panel that has been added into our web client viewer. So for any of our customers that are taking advantage of the Web 2 application in PDM Pro, we have now integrated easier use of the named BOMs if you are saving those off. This makes it easier for customers who are using their PDM system to create engineering documentation as well as product information in a more easily seen and viewable location. With the convert task in 2026, we have added more features to our conversion options, giving you greater control over the types of files that are being created, the formats in which they're going to be saved, and the versions and revisions that are going to be assigned to these files after they've been saved to your vault, giving us better control over documentation for downstream processes or for sharing information inside of our company. And then with 2026, it's easier than ever to update workflows and work processes in your vaults. Much like we gained a few years back, we now have the ability to archive old workflows. No more trying to set a workflow condition that cannot be satisfied by your files to try to obsolete old workflows. This will make it easier to adapt and grow with your design team as your workflow needs and your approval processes change. We've also brought in category properties. A new default condition in category properties now uses the file path type. This helps ensure files are automatically categorized correctly without and reducing the amount of manual adjustments to do so. We've also, for admins, added in the warning for same user login. This will warn admins that they have been signed into the admin tool on more than one device, allowing them to A, know if they've accidentally forgotten to sign out of a secondary device, as well as knowing if you have a shared account if someone else is already using the admin account. And then the Active Directory sync. There is now an in-progress indicator for the Active Directory synchronization. This will give your admins real-time information on how the sync is going with your Windows Active Directory and prevent impatient admins like myself from refreshing or restarting things because they just didn't wait long enough. Image preview is now available for more file types. The thumbnail preview can now support more CAD formats. Users can visibly confirm files without opening them and saving time on browsing for files that have similar names or similar descriptions. Document ID system variables, including ID, ID hexadecimal, and archive server path, are now available in all column sets, making it easier to see key identifiers when working inside of your vault. And the design library thumbnails are now included in the preview, making it easier to browse for files and see different features that you have in your design libraries inside of our user interface. And that's going to wrap up our new features for SolidWorks PDM in 2026. And I will be handing it off to Lena now.
Thank you a lot, René. Everything fits together in this version and you can see it. So now we're back with Aiden for simulation and electrical, more powerful, more accurate, and faster than ever. Because even after 30 years, SolidWorks just keeps pushing its limits.
Thank you, Lena. I'm happy to jump into SolidWorks Electrical with the first feature being the part reference import. So the import feature from Excel was added last year. However, this year it was upgraded again with the ability to truncate what needs to be entered, allowing the setup to be way faster. You can enter the desired values once and apply it to all the designated terminals in a circuit or designated parts. You select simulate and then you import it to see it take effect. And checking the results, we can see that the maximum wire number and minimum and maximum wire size are all included for each of the terminals. A customer has reported that they were able to import 65,000 parts using this method at once. Additionally, we have updates to the dynamic connectors. So there is a selected circuits breakout that's been added so that you can filter, reorder, and multi-select the terminals. This is most helpful for clients using massive connectors. With lots and lots of terminals to select. Additionally, with accessory parts, in 2026, we can assign accessory parts to circuits and terminals. That allows us to have both richer bill of materials and reports, as well as not needing to include additional parts that aren't necessarily included in the final schematic, just so we can have those terminals visual. And you can see here, we can see extra columns on that table because of the associated accessory parts. And export to PDF. This feature has been upgraded as well, allowing us to select the structure to be exported between book, project, and page, as well as the orientation of the pages being exported. So we can force all of the pages to be horizontal, vertical, or it can be a mixed schematic, as shown when we export this file here. And here you can see we have both horizontal and vertical PDFs exported. And routing selected wires. So we now have the select wires option within auto route, which allows you to specify which wire should be routed. And it prevents all wires from being routed at once and along the same path, because often we want our different wires to follow different paths. Each wire, when it's added, each wire type will have its own assembly, and as more wires of that same type are added, they will be added into the assembly for better organization within your assembly tree. Additionally, on connector tables, there is a new column type that's been added. It's called route properties, which includes a lot of new properties, for example, connected to a connector, connected to a pin, and signal name. We can see here in the drop-down all of those properties added. And when you update an item on a table, you can apply it to all tables, similar tables throughout your drawing, as shown here. So as a little recap, the manufacturer part and cable reference import was greatly improved. That way you don't need to write the same value 1,000 times for all of your parts. The dynamic connector table is really helpful, especially being able to multi-select the terminals you want to include or not include, and being able to assign accessory parts, making it way easier to represent what you're actually going to be including in your finalized schematic. Additionally, that PDF export, being able to orient the pages in the desired way, is really helpful, as well as being able to route wires, route the selected wires individually. That way you don't have to route all of your wires at once along a common route. Some other features not yet shown were we enhanced the connector table, adding a whole bunch of features that you can include onto those tables, as well as some tooltips for when you're routing your wires and cables. That will be released at a later date. We can also batch edit the wire stub lengths, so we can add a common stub length to all wires being routed at once. Another helpful feature for time saving. Our cable management. So we have new advanced filtering options that's been added to the cable management tab, which aids in navigation to the applicable schematic from the component browser directly. Additionally, customers can now hide the default classifications if desired, allowing only custom classifications to be shown if they want to. Because before you could hide custom classifications, but you couldn't hide the defaults. So now you can hide any and keep just the ones you want. Additionally, previously circuit information had to be matched 100% when you were updating your manufacturer parts, but now you can replace a manufacturer part with one that has more circuits. You can't go to less, obviously, because you need to have at least the same number of terminals being utilized from before, but we can add bigger parts in where we need to add more space. Additionally, the collaborative server has been enhanced, and now it only requires open ports on the firewall from the server side, not the client side. So there was a lot of issues where clients couldn't connect to the server because of firewall issues, and now that has been mitigated with the new updates. The electrical cloud has now, the electrical library has now been added to the cloud, so users can utilize from the 3Dxperience platform the same electrical libraries that they would be using on their desktops. And additionally, there's a new Solidworks electrical 3D augmented role that has been added to allow users to use these libraries throughout the cloud. So as a breakdown of what is shown there, the 3D connected electrical tooltips the tools in general have been updated, with library management being the key feature. It's been enhanced with a new load, unload, and save features, allowing users to save libraries and share them so that the entire company can use a common library. And to do this, a new 3D electrical augmented role is available for the 3Dxperience platform. so that you can use those new library tools. So that's what I have for electrical in 2026, but we have a lot of new features across our simulations softwares. So let's jump in with structural simulation. So shell edges have been updated in that remote loads can now be directly applied to the shell edges. This increases the accuracy of our simulations. You do want to ensure though that you are selecting the edges that were used to define the shell initially to make sure that the load is being applied properly. Additionally, there's an error message that has been added if you have improper or no materials applied, as well as improper mesh controls. This reduces any unnecessary reworks and reruns that you might have to do because you forgot to add in a material initially. You can copy and paste the name of the part from the error message to do a quick search to identify the part and fix the error before you run the simulation. Additionally, in 2026, we've introduced a new angular displacement plot in which you can display the rotation around any chosen axis, either in radians or degrees. This prevents any unnecessary conversions between both radians or degrees, and it saves a ton of time in comparison to the older methods of getting to an angular plot from a linear plot. Additionally, shell definitions. So in 2026, you can set a global shell default type within the settings. This allows users to specify either a thick or a thin global default, so that if you're using thick shells a lot, you don't have to constantly click that thick shell button every time. You can set that as your default. Obviously, we can still do mixed models where we have both thicks and thins, but it prevents users from needing to override every shell feature created if you use one over the other. And pin connectors. So pin connectors can now be used in random vibration studies. This allows the resultant forces to be directly received using the display resultant pin forces. In this example shown, we can use the front pin 1 and display the resultant values on a graph. This allows users to identify any natural harmonic frequencies that may exist within your model from a random vibration that your machine might experience, which could reduce any costly reworks that might appear if you discover this after manufacturing. So as a recap, being able to do your distributed remote loads on shell edges is a fantastic way to simulate your models in a more accurate manner, as well as just the overall user experience improvement that warning message provides. Again, I've had to rerun many studies that took tens or more minutes because I forgot to add materials, so that one's really helpful for me. Rotational displacement, not having to work a linear displacement plot into giving us an angular displacement value is super helpful as well. A lot of math and time saved on that one. Additionally, as simple as setting a global default for the shell values is, it is huge. As somebody who uses thick shells a lot, I hate having to click that button every time. And being able to display the pin connector forces versus having to insert parts that could be another cause for error. So it really simplifies our studies. Moving on to beams, the first being mass and force analysis. So within 26, users can apply forces on beams either in a per item or total amount. And if you're using per item, you can also do a per unit length. So we can distribute those forces evenly. And it really just increases the choices a user has to represent your model's loading overall. Additionally, seismic response studies. So within the response spectrum analysis study, we can add remote and loads and masses, which allows us to simplify our models. We don't need to model the whole thing anymore if we know the total mass in the loading of it. So we can still maintain the accuracy of the load while simplifying the model and reducing load on our machines. And for buckling modes, within the structural buckling mode study, we can choose a new option that filters out any negative eigenvalues that we might see, because these values, they're not applicable for any studies that we would be doing, so we can filter them out with the checkbox there as shown, and we can see just the most relevant positive eigenvalues and have our engineers focusing on the right results. So as a quick recap, being able to distribute our loads better along all of our beams, it increases the flexibility of the software. The more you have way more options on how you can load your devices. Additionally, the seismic response study, not having to model the entire building, but instead being able to apply the load is super helpful. And with the buckling nodes, again, another simple fix to a problem that should have been fixed a long time ago. Additionally, with performance increasements, so we have a 28% reduction in run times for some studies that include bolts and other pin connector types. So if you're using connectors a lot, there is a big reduction in runtime there. And in 2026, they fixed a error that would cause an unrunnable study, seemingly randomly, where you used to have to remesh and rerun a study. That error no longer exists, so one less thing that you have to worry about. Moving on from structural and on to plastics. The first upgrade to plastics is just a huge update to the material database. They've added 85 new materials and they've updated 12 libraries. So a huge expansion to the plastics libraries. However, there's also a new volume plot that has been added. This allows users to quickly identify any unfilled volumes in gray, helping the identification of any short shots that may exist within plastics. Up top, we can see that gray plot, but something that many users might have missed before this plot is that there's also a short shot in the bottom here. So that plot helps you identify it. Additionally, air vents have been upgraded from previous versions, where now we can use edges to identify where we would like our air vents to exist. Which can help decrease pressure in a more natural way, like where the molds might sit together, where air would be venting naturally. You can also see in this case study, we selected the edges on the insides of the ribs to help decrease pressure. So when we go back into that air pressure plot, we can see that it's decreased over tenfold, I do believe, in this case. And thermoset materials have had a massive update. Updating the names for the parameters for ejection, as well as adding a new parameter. So the names have been updated to time-based or curing-based. And when you're using curing-based, there's a new field for the percent to reach a curing threshold. So you can set the threshold of how much needs to be cured, a threshold for how much of the volume needs to have reached that, and any initial conversion to take into effect. Along with a plot to see that curing-based. Alrighty, so as a recap of what I just spoke about, massive updates to the material library is fantastic for everybody. You have more accuracy in the materials that you're using in your plastic simulation, as well as vast improvements to the solve times throughout the entire plastics program. So we can see 15% for fill, 25% for cooling, and as well as a 30% time reduction in the packing solver. So those solvers have been improved a huge amount. That unfilled volume plot was introduced to help identify any short shot regions. Additionally, the edge venting is expanded for more realistic simulations and it helps improve the longevity of your molds, as well as all the thermal set materials have been upgraded with new reactive controls and parameters and a few renames to make it a little more intuitive for users. And moving on from plastics, let's look at flow simulation. So all of the changes we have in flow simulation for 2026, they're going to take effect on the first service pack release. So we don't have any live videos to show you today, but we do have some screenshots of the features. The first feature is the total power of surface sources. So in previous versions, users who were trying to determine the power of your surfaces had to go into each source and determine the power and add them up that way. This year we have a button where you can see all of the surfaces, the power sources at once. So way more intuitive and useful for anybody who needs to look at the electrical usage of your enclosure. Additionally, with two resistor creation, those components can be created automatically either through an engineering database item or via an Excel import, which helps cut down on time when setting up multiples of these features at once. Similar process to before for if it's just one, but now you can kind of copy and paste these features around. Additionally, a status column has now been added directly to the Explorer tool, so you no longer need to switch between those tabs to check on the status. And additionally, a temperature column has been directly added into the Component Explorer, which allows the final values to be exported into an Excel document, so all the temperatures of all of the solids can be discovered and explored without too much user effort. Way easier than before. Additionally, users are now able to fill these small gaps between components with a specified solid material. This could represent glues or tins. So by filling those small gaps, obviously it gets rid of any erroneous values of flow going through them, as well as better representing the finished model without needing an extra CAD body, which is big. And users are now able to find the exact point where a minimum or a maximum goal lies, allowing you to pinpoint your results. Before you just saw the point on the model, now you can actually extract those X, Y, and Z coordinates. Additionally, we can now visualize multiple parameters at once with a new parametric display with a bubble graph. This uses the X and Y to represent two parameters, but also the bubble size and color as a respective third and fourth parameter. So you can have as many as 4 parameters on one graph, making it much easier to spot trends in designs among more parameters. And then lastly, within 2026, users can define project parameters from within a submodel and then propagate those flow parameters up to a top level model. This allows the parameters to be put into a library for later use, but also those identical models can have different parameters within the same upper level model, where before you would have had to have all of the parameters applied to all unique parts imported at once. So more flexibility in your top level.
Thanks a lot, Aiden. That's really impressive. So from simulation to wiring analysis, you really see how far SolidWorks has come. Now let's switch to 2D with Eddie to see how DraftSight keeps evolving, more flexible and more powerful.
Yes, I am back, and you nailed it with that, Lena. So 2D is something that is still very important in 2026. Flexibility and power are the focus for this year's enhancements in DraftSights. So from small projects to large building layouts and elevation, DraftSight enhancements are here to make your 2D workflows smarter and more capable. So by enhancing the user experience, and like Lena said, providing more flexibility, and bringing more power to a very underestimated tool in the Dassault lineup. So the new DraftSight start page creates a smoother user experience when you open up DraftSight. You can continue previous work immediately using the Recent Filters tab, Recent Document Filter on the Home tab, or search for exact documents you need to pick up right where you left off. On the Learn tab, you can access learning resources such as tutorials, documentation, and skill building exercises quickly and easily. And finally, the My Setup tab allows access to customized workspaces where the user interface is tailored to your preferences or project needs. The Power Tools ribbon tab has additional tools on it to streamline your workflow, such as the pattern hatch, allowing you to take a block and turn it into a hatch pattern, providing you with all the tools needed to customize your hatch. A few other tools that have been added are the Get Block Info tool, allowing you to select a specific block and get information from it, as well as the Make Line Style tool, which allows you to quickly create custom line styles. Also, the List Explorer tool allows you to search for Lisp routines quickly and efficiently. With floating document windows, you can open drawings in a separate window outside of the main application. To start a floating document window, simply drag a tab outside of the main window and resize accordingly. So this allows you to have multiple drawings open side by side or across multiple monitors. Diesel expressions in DraftSight 2026 allows users to enable dynamic text that automatically update based on drawing properties or user inputs. You can create custom text fields that perform calculations and also apply conditional formatting for things like menus or macros, all within the DWG itself without the need for external scripts or programming. After creating a pattern in DraftSight 2026, you'll be able to go up right into the ribbon and adjust the pattern directly in the ribbon itself, eliminating the need to go into preview, back out to make changes, and go back into the preview to view your work. So this makes the pattern workflow much more user-friendly. The gradient ribbon has also received an upgrade. So before in 2025, it was all just text. Now again, you can go up into the ribbon and not only view the type of gradient you're going to use, but also make adjustments to it as well. So DraftSight now supports the integration of ECW files, so which can be brought in using the attach image tool and opened up and cropped down using the clip image tool. You can then scale to create an embedded image that can be used as a reference for you to quickly and accurately create your drawings and overlays from. In DraftSight 2026, you no longer need to have a 2D export of a building floor plan. Now you can work directly with the Revit or IFC file using the new BIM module. For the Revit file, you can generate precise floor plans, sections, elevations, and schedules. Your files will also now automatically update if you have your Revit file saved on a shared server. DraftSight will pull data directly from the Revit file, allowing you to extract material lists and takeoffs without having a Revit license. So this is going to work back on Revit files as far back as 2011. So as you can see, some pretty powerful enhancements brought to what most people view as a simple software. And that's finally it for me. So thank you very much to Lena, our fantastic host, for being with us to this point. And I'll let her and Aiden take us to the finish line.
Thanks, Iggy. Now we're wrapping things up on a high note. So after designing, simulating, and managing, it's time to show it off the right way. And for that, nothing beats Composer. I'll let Aiden show us how the 2026 version of SolidWorks makes everything more sharper and more professional.
Thank you, Lena. So for the last few slides here of the day, we're just going to talk about two simple changes to SolidWorks Composer in 2026. So the first is the addition of support to PNG and TIFF images when you're importing to the Textures Workshop. So this allows users to not have to convert to a different file type before importing images, and now supporting these industry standards. Additionally, users can export screenshots from videos into PNG, TIFF, and JPEG images. So a whole lot of improvement for users to not have to convert between file types anymore, streamlining our processes. And with that, that's the end of Composer changes. So I'm going to hand it back to Lena to finish us off.
Wow, good job, everyone. So a big thank you to our amazing experts for this beautiful demo. Today, we saw how SolidWorks 2026 takes design, performance, simulation, and collaboration even further. And this year is special. It marks the 30 years of innovation and creativity with all of you. At Solidxperts, we're proud to be part of your journey, helping you turn your ideas into project and your project into real success stories. And it doesn't stop here. The launch continues at our Afterworks in Montreal, Quebec, Markham, and Nashua, chains to meet, share, and celebrate 30 years of SolidWorks together. And to keep up with our news, demos, and events, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Solidxperts. We love seeing what you create. And don't forget, check your emails for the prize winners. It will be announced right after this presentation. Thanks so much for joining us for the SolidWorks 2026 launch. Keep exploring, keep trying new things, and never stop pushing your limits. We'll see you soon for another Solidxperts event. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and the most important of it, have fun. Bye.
Thank you.